I'm excited today because I've got someone back in person who I've only interviewed remotely. Hilmar from Gelato is here with us, and in the year and a half or so since we've did our first interview, you guys have like done dramatic stuff. Like you're in every major protocol, everybody uses you. You're like a building block of crypto of DeFi, right? It's kind of crazy. But before we get into it, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, for everybody that didn't hear the first interview, what Gelato is, how it functions, what it provides to the world, and then we'll get into where you guys are now and what you're doing.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me once again here in
Sure.
person in ETHDenver. Great to see you. So to myself, my name is Hilmar. I'm one of the founders of Gelato. And yeah, we started the project, I think, back in 2019. And yeah, back then we were just building on a bunch of different DeFi ideas, and there was not much around. You had the MakerDAO, Uniswap, I think, was just launching,
Yeah.
and there wasn't really much going on. But the DAO happened, that sort of like got me excited about it. And back then, I did a bunch of startups, worked at a YC startup, studied finance, and so I was always super excited about yeah, monetary politics, currencies, but never wanted to work at a bank. I was post financial crisis generation. So I sat in the university room. I was like, damn, I don't want to do this. And
Yeah.
then crypto saved me. I'm like, yes,
Nice.
thank you.
There's an alternative.
There's an alternative. And so yeah, we were hacking in a bunch of applications. We quickly realized every time we were building more sophisticated financial services, let's say we built like the first interest rate swap on Aave or ETHLend back then, and MakerDAO back then. They had some hackathons in 2019, for example.
Right.
We always realized we had to build this heavy infrastructure that actually like automates these financial transactions at certain points in the future, because smart contracts are not smart, they're quite dumb.
Right.
So we were like, okay, now we are building this infrastructure, and we are now the central point of failure within our system. If I switch the server off, then this swap will never happen.
Right.
And so we realized, hey, this shouldn't be like that. Like, not every project should, first of all, build and maintain this infrastructure and then also become the central point of failure. We are building transparency. We are rebuilding a new decentralized financial system. And so we decided to go in and build a network, a decentralized network of nodes that help projects in DeFi, but also in all other areas, facilitate and make their smart contracts be connected to like off-chain compute resources, so to say.
Right.
And yeah, this is basically how we got into Gelato, and then it sort of went from there.
Great. So Gelato is basically allowing developers to automate those back-end functions and be watching for things that they need to be watching for that normally they would have to build like massive stuff to do. And you guys provide, not only do you provide that ability, you guys provide building blocks to do that, right?
Yep.
You've done this so many times for so many projects that you guys now say, hey, we've already written that code, or you can alter this code to make this function this way.
Exactly. And I think the primary difference between us, like, you could also do something like Gelato as like a traditional Web 2 sort of SaaS business, where you say, hey, we are a big Web 2 company, we run infrastructure, and we do this for you. But we consciously decided against that and said, no, we shouldn't do that, because then we become like the next big kraken that sort of controls these transactions, can extract value from them. And it should be like, our mission is to be as close as possible to the trustlessness and censorship resistant to Ethereum as possible. It's very difficult because Ethereum is like, you can't break it these days, right?
Right.
So we are still not there yet, but this was our mission from the get-go, and that's why it was always a bit difficult for us, and we couldn't maybe move as fast as others, because we're like, hey, we are not just spinning up servers and doing it, we're trying to build a decentralized network here that is like, it never goes down.
Right.
And so we had to like sacrifice some speed with that. But the mission was, okay, we started with smart contract automation, and it was like already like a big hit, because a lot of especially finance products needed it. But since then we actually expanded quite a bit. Smart contracts being like not smart and not being able to self-execute is one big issue. But another one, which is very close to that, is the issue of data not being available on chain. So smart contracts need to be executed at particular points in time in the future from external parties, but also they oftentimes need data in that transaction that you can't get from on-chain.
Right.
Like, the on-chain stuff is a bit limited. So you have prices on-chain, you have interest rate on-chain, you have some some other like token-related balances on chain, but that's sort of it, right? If you're gonna go to like, hey, what is the volume? What are some financial indicators, or like large-scale data of like what are all the NFTs or stuff like that, or what is the collateralization ratios or whatnot? There you usually have to go to like some off-chain system to get that data from, because you can't just store all of this data on chain. It's just not feasible. And so what we are doing now, or what we sort of transition towards, is combining our automation service with a new way of how you can access off-chain data and connect your smart contracts to that data while automating transactions with that. And this is actually the new service that we recently launched, that I also give a presentation about in a couple of hours here, which is called Web3 Functions. And you can basically think about it as serverless functions, or like AWS Lambda, Google Cloud functions, but run by Gelato nodes. Like they run Gelato nodes, you can call any sort of API, you have nodes come to a consensus on the data, and then you send the transaction to your smart contracts.
Wow.
And this is what we focus the majority of our time on. And I see it as sort of like an upgrade to this automation service that was limited to on-chain data, and now you have basically the world open up.
How is the data getting into the nodes? Are these individually run nodes where people are providing the data, and then they're incentivized to have the best data, similar to a Chainlink Oracle structure or something?
So right now how it works is that you have nodes that are like, let's say you're a project and you want to write a cloud function that, I don't know, calls a sports betting API to know what's the outcome of a particular sports match, right? And then maybe you want to call 10 other APIs, and then you want to do some computation on that, and then you want to choose the match with the highest reward or something, and then you want to post that data on chain. So how it works is that you can specify exactly like, okay, how many nodes should run this particular logic and come to a consensus on the data that should then be pushed on chain.
Nice.
You can say, hey, I want 40% of all the gels staked to sign off of this before it gets mined. Nice. Or you can say, I just want one node to do it because I trust this node operator, I know them, or they are very trustworthy, and it's fine if they do it because it will be more efficient, much cheaper. Because if you just use one node versus 10 nodes, it's of course better and easier to do. And so it's kind of like flexible. And I sort of see it as like oracles and steroids, or like a next generation oracle system, which is significantly more scalable and flexible, and opens up just the area of use cases from just price data to everything basically. And that's what we just.
And the nodes are always independent from the developers creating the system.
Yeah.
Okay, and so do they? If it's data that node is not necessarily getting yet, and let's say it was, I don't know, some strange game that people play somewhere somehow, is this data that they can also request that a node start adding, or that a node gets spun up to provide the data, or is it kind of like a marketplace of, hey, here's what we've got, come get it?
They can use any sort of APIs basically.
Okay.
So you can just write your APIs that you want to call, and then they will be.
They happen on the node, so you can determine the data source itself, but then it runs on the other nodes.
So you are flexible in terms of the data.
That's awesome. Right? Now I get it.
So and so it's like we talked to a bunch of projects, and they're like, yeah, I don't no Oracle service provider is giving me this endpoint, or no one is giving me this price feed, and now it's like, hey, just do it yourself. Write the script, write a TypeScript file, exactly choose how you want to get consensus on the data, how the data should be computed, and then just create the task. And it's literally just how it works is you write a TypeScript file, you deploy to IPFS, then you go to Gelato to a smart contract on chain, you send a transaction to the smart contract on chain, which specifies the ID where your file sits, and then event gets emitted. Gelato nodes all over the world load that in, and then based on your configuration, it will start running it for you and then sending transactions.
That's fantastic. That's brilliant. Has that launched?
This is now, we launched, so we already had a secret private beta going on since last year.
Right.
But we recently made a public announcement about it, and we are onboarding right now more projects in still this private beta. So you have to get whitelisted, and then we onboard you to it. Because we're iterating very fast, and we're adding more features.
Devs are going to be all over that.
Yeah, and we already have I think 10 or so live on the platform, and they're doing crazy stuff. Like one big thing is what what was a huge problem was on-chain swap routing. So like you have all these protocols, they're earning a lot of fees in like 1,000 different tokens. And obviously this is not a sustainable business. You need to you want USDC at the end, or you want ETH, right?
Right.
So they collect a shit ton of shitcoins. Sorry for my language.
That's all good. You've heard nothing.
We're good.
This show is constant expletives. It's all good.
And so you get like 1,000 different tokens, and you get like $5 here, $100 there, $10,000 there, but you want USDC at the end of the day. And what you had to do is and every token is on a different DEX with a different liquidity, and you had to then write smart contracts that route through different DEXs, and it was just a complete nightmare. You had to audit this. Like projects, basically, they just kept these tokens at the end of the day.
Because having this assortment of stuff sitting around.
And now what they do is they just write one Web3 function where they say, hey, loop through all the tokens that we have earned and just call the 1inch or Paraswap DEX aggregator API and just funnel it through. And you can't get this on chain, of course. And that's unique, right? Like this API request is unique to the token pair that you want, to the slippage that you want.
Right.
And so you can't have like a general purpose, like a specific Oracle doing this. It doesn't make sense. So you need to, it's kind of like this request response model. And now like you have big projects basically just swapping their tokens via 1inch. They can cut 90% of their smart contracts.
That's
just use
phenomenal. Wow, it's like your own specialized pricing oracle based on what you need, not having to generically go out and hit 400 places to get it.
And what I find interesting
brilliant.
is that a lot of people have been talking about oracles, pricing oracles. But I like that strategy that you said earlier with, you could have one trusted node that you prefer. You don't have to go out. Because I think like other ones like Treller, I think it's called, or Teller, they're like massively decentralized. And it seems like if you're going to be executing like the discussion in the Mission DeFi Telegram channel about, traders and like perp traders and things, you could designate the one node that you trust for pricing and be able to execute trades at speed versus having to go out to the entire chain to validate. So that's something unique to me.
Yeah, and you can also, the cool thing is you can also combine this, like combining the validation of the data by Gelato nodes with validation by other networks or by yourself. So you can say, I just want Gelato to, like, let's say you have a server and you have just you call the API on your server, and this is the simplest server there is. Just a server that calls the API and you sign it. And then you just write a Web3 function that just pings your server where you sign the data. You just let Gelato do the computation around it. You filter through a bunch of like NFTs that you want to buy, and then your endpoint tells, gives back the price at which it should be bought, for example. And then Gelato just picks it and then puts it on chain for you at the right time. And so you can have your own trust. You can say, I trust JP Morgan to do that. I trust this particular node, or I just outsource it to Gelato and I want to trust them. Or you can say, I want to use Gelato plus another Oracle like Redstone, and I just combine these two, and then I have them both, right? So it's flexible. So
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
We just finished interviewing Redstone.
Oh, cool.
20 minutes ago. Okay, so this is fascinating to me. How do people become Gelato nodes?
Yeah, so right now this is basically a whitelisting process that we, as the DAO, operate.
Right.
And yeah, because there's like, if you use then Gelato and you trust the Gelato nodes to come to consensus, there's of course some trust involved, and so we are making sure we are selecting the right partners that are first of all able to run this infrastructure, because like one big difference from Gelato versus others, like we are on a lot of chains, and there's like, it is not straightforward to run this infrastructure. Like you need 24/7 monitoring, you need people on pager duty and all this kind of stuff. Right?
I get it. Totally.
So we are selecting like the best node operators in the world. We work together with staking facilities. They're one of them. They are one of the biggest Lido node operators, for example. So people which have reputation, and they have to acquire gel. They have to then stake their gel. So they have some capital at risk if they mess up, and they have like we really like whitelism also in the real world with like contracts and everything, right?
Sure.
So we're making just 100% sure that there's nothing that can go wrong, and then we have a nice regional distribution and like country distribution as well. So if one government goes bonkers, we can still have the nodes in the US or in Germany or in Japan that then work. So, but yeah, it's right now we are sort of like actually selecting the ones.
Yeah.
You want to know, and then later on, once we have like the first core set onboarded, then we can make it a bit easier to onboard also more.
That's cool. How do people currently that are using Gelato, I mean, it just kind of feels like it's the natural next step for you, or you're already using something, and I haven't climbed deep enough to know. But cross chain comms, right? I mean, I got to believe that becomes a critical component of what people are doing and behind the scenes in Gelato. Is that something already built in using other protocols, or is that something potentially you guys are thinking about later on?
Yeah. So cross-chain messaging is sort of like in this sort of same vein that where we are operating. We are not doing a cross-chain messaging protocol or so ourselves. I think there are sufficient cross-chain messaging protocols,
Plenty out there.
plenty out there. Like we try to focus on problems that sort of are not fully served yet, and I think that sort of area is served very well. And actually, like a bunch of cross-chain messaging protocols, like Connex, for example, they actually use Gelato on the hood to get transactions mined. So what they do is they build their system on top where they post like state routes from one chain to another, so you can validate the state of Polygon and Ethereum, and you can actually do this in a trust minimized way, right? But actually, in the whole process that goes in the background, with that actually sends these transactions to initiate the posting the data from chain to chain, that actually happens via Gelato under the hood by Connex, for example,
That's
right?
great.
So we are already sort of like
in there,
but not on the building this sort of messaging system.
So the devs are coming into Gelato, they're using Gelato, and they're deciding whatever cross-chain comms they want. Okay, that makes sense.
And there are a lot of use cases where you combine Gelato with Connex, with Layer 0 or others
to
do like automated cross-chain applications, which I actually gave a talk about at the Oracle Summit last year. And so, we are not building our own.
Okay. Yeah, that's smart. Focus on what focus on what the market needs. That's good. That's good. All right, so you spun out a project. When was that?
I think it was roughly a year ago.
Was it? Wait, I talked to him a year ago?
Yeah.
Wow. I can't believe that was a year ago. So anyway, you guys spun out Arrakis.
Yeah.
Is that how I say it? Am I saying it right?
Arrakis.
Yeah. Tell me what Arrakis is and why it spun out of Gelato.
Yeah.
And how's it going? Because you guys had like so much grief, community hassle with that.
Yeah, Arrakis. So I'm super excited about Arrakis. Love the project. Amazing team also working on it. So Arrakis is, in short, trustless algorithmic market making infrastructure for automated market makers or for decentralized exchanges, and in particular Uniswap V3.
Right.
So the goal of Arrakis is what you saw with like Alameda, Three Arrows Capital, and all these other like market makers, centralized market makers. Extremely intransparent. You have no idea what they're doing with your funds. They're taking your money. Oftentimes, you don't even get that good liquidity. They take like 5% of your entire treasury on tokens.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they say, we don't even serve you.
Right.
Then the liquidity is not that great. And then sometimes they just invest your money into other projects and go bankrupt, right? So, like I personally for Gelato talked to a lot of market makers, and I always like, what the fuck is going on here? Like,
that's crazy.
Like this industry, I have no idea. Like they just give me some weird terms, and I'm like, where's my money going? I don't even know.
Try to get prices from them is a nightmare.
It's crazy. So there's a huge information asymmetry, and so what our hypothesis was that, hey, with Uniswap V3, with these concentrated AMMs coming out, DEXs will soon rival, if not exceed, the efficiency of centralized limit order book exchanges like Binance or Coinbase. And we already seen that at peak times, Uniswap V3 did more volume in ETHUSDC than Coinbase, for example. So from a capital efficient point of view, it's there. It's just very difficult to make markets liquid there because you don't have a market maker infrastructure or industry there, because only recently you had these innovations like concentrated liquidity that enables people to run these sort of Alameda, Stoichkov market-making strategies on a concentrated AMM like Uniswap. And so when it came out, we got super excited at Gelato, and we thought there will be this new industry evolving, which is market-making for DEXs. And hey, it's all automation, right? So let's show them how to build that. Let's build like a small POC, which we did. And then the small POC got like $1 billion in TVL. And
suddenly you have a product.
And then suddenly I'm like, okay, damn. And we in Gelato we have so much to do, and then we're like, hey, we got a team inside and we're building that. We're super excited about it. We're like, hey, why don't you guys take it, spin it out of Gelato, create your own community around it, and eventually your own token around it, and a rebrand to a new project. And this is basically what happened. We had a DAO vote about it, and now it's called Arrakis. And recently the V2 of Arrakis launched, which the guys have been cooking on for like 9 months now.
Wow.
And it's incredible because it's already used by like, I don't know, 6-7 different projects, and only started like a month ago. It was released, and what is amazing of it, it's basically, it allows you as a project, for example, me as Gelato, I lack liquidity, but so we have a lot of gel in our treasury.
Right.
So they are making markets liquid. It's not hard. I just put it in Uniswap, right? But on the ETH side, it's difficult. I don't have so much ETH in the market, right? Because like we don't have professional market makers that are putting it in there because it's complex, right?
Yeah.
They don't know where to put it, what prices to put it, and so on. And so what Arrakis does is you put in $1 million worth of gel, let's say, in an Arrakis vault. And what they do is they put the liquidity into the market to such an extent that once they only put ever like 1% of the entire inventory in the market, and once, let's say, the gel gets sold to ETH in the market by people buying or selling organically, you're not selling, you're just making, right? So you have zero price impact. And once people buy your gel for ETH, you have the gel and you have the ETH in there, you eject parts of it out, you accumulate it, and you put only a fraction back in, but then with a spread to the current price. So you can then run these strategies to accumulate more liquidity for a project. And gel, or the Gelato DAO, was able to accumulate $250,000 in 3 weeks within Uniswap v3 without creating a single cent in price impact by just providing liquidity.
Holy crap.
And we are doing that now for like 5, 6, 7 different projects. And so you can, it's a whole new way to do OTC sort of dealing.
That's fantastic. That's really turned out well.
Yeah,
that's great.
And so it's I'm super excited about Arrakis. It's a lot of fun.
So I'm assuming the folks that weren't happy with the airdrop structure are now happy.
They will definitely be happy. Like the whole point was to give Arrakis the shot it needed and the resources it needed, because like you need like to raise funds with that kind of stuff.
Of course,
so on, right? And you need to hire the smartest people in the industry to work on this.
Absolutely.
And now we got a rockstar team, and they have all the resources they need, and so it will be the best for both projects.
That's fantastic. All right, so last thing is, I think when you guys first interviewed, I don't know, you had like 15, 20 customers.
Yeah.
Now where are you?
Over 200.
Bravo.
And it's like some of the biggest names in all of DeFi.
Yeah, like MakerDAO is using us. The folks at Optimism, cross-dimension protocols like Connex are using us, or PancakeSwap, Olympus. Games like Zrun, like not only DeFi, also NFT marketplaces. So
nice.
A very wide array of projects.
That's awesome. Well, congrats. I'm excited for you guys. And, we talk a lot on the show about, during a bear market, infrastructure and gaming seems to be very popular with some of the best investors. So that should bode well for you guys.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much. That was fantastic.
Appreciate it.